Hi, Tanna Marshall here with your Feel Good Friday message. And today I want to talk to you about dealing with your fear. And the reason I'm talking about this week is because I had to deal with one of my biggest fears this week. We had an earthquake, and those of you who live in LA were aware of it and probably felt it. And those of you who weren't here, it wasn't a big one, but it was a jolt. And everybody feels differently about it. And I personally, I'm so terrified of earthquakes. And it was way back to the 71 earthquake. I was 5 years old. I was totally traumatized. And I was also living alone in the 94 earthquake, and my apartment was trashed. But it's the aspects about it that I find so frightening is that there's no way to predict it. We don't know when it's coming. You can't control it. So when it starts, I freeze. Because I'm like, oh my God, how big is it going to get? Is it, And, I can't really do that anymore because now I have to deal with my mom. I happened to be coming back from the bathroom to go to bed when this one hit. So I was in the hallway and it scared my mom and she started yelling and I was going to run back to her, but I was naked. So I had to get a robe. And so I ran back to her. And what's funny is, in situations like this, she totally reverts to being mom. And she's like, do you want to get in bed with me? I'm like, yes, because they're just so scary to me. But it wasn't that big. It was just scary. And that not knowing how bad is it going to be. And, my two biggest fears are earthquakes and sharks. And sharks I have somewhat control of because I just don't go into shark-infested waters that I know of. So I don't know if you've seen that movie last year that was so popular, Sharknado, where tornadoes were coming and picking up sharks out of the ocean and dropping them all over LA. I guess my worst horror movie would be Sharkquake. Because I envision a horrible earthquake and the earth cracks in my living room and it opens up and then sharks come out through my living room. I don't know. I'm sure somebody will make that movie at some point. But anyway, sharks, a little bit more controllable because I'm also fascinated by them. But earthquakes just scare me. So, I was very shaken up. I mean, I was literally like this. I was literally shaking. And I hurt my foot. I got cuts on my foot. I don't even know how I got them. So, when you get into that place of fear, you go into fight or flight and your adrenaline kicks in and the cortisol kicks in. And what happens is the blood drains from your head and goes into all your muscles and your heart is pumping to get the blood pumping through your muscles to get you prepared for fight or flight. And so you can't really think straight. And so you can't rationally deal with your fear when it hits. And so that it's kind of a catch-22 because something comes up and you don't have the time to think about it or regain your composure unless you consciously make that decision to do that. And in this instant, I didn't. I was just like, earthquake, and totally shaking. And fortunately, it was St. Patrick's Day, so I felt it was totally appropriate to have a little bit of Bailey's Irish Cream just to calm my nerves. So, whatever. That's how I kind of calmed myself down a little bit. But one of the things that I did during the day, and I'm going to go into detail about this in a future video, is tapping. And it's a technique that you're probably familiar with, tapping. It's also called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. It's a form of psychological acupressure where you tap on specific meridian points in the body while addressing a specific issue. And you can use it on anything. You can use it on addiction and phobias and pain and weight loss. But fear is something that is definitely a great thing to work on using tapping. And so I did some of that to kind of dissipate the fear because you want to dissipate the emotional charge of whatever is causing your problem. And this definitely has a big emotional charge, especially we had little aftershocks throughout the day. And they were so tiny. I don't think most people even felt them. But as soon as there's that rumbling, you all know what I'm talking about, I was like, I do that freeze thing again, which, the adrenaline kicks in and then I can't think straight. So this is something that I'm working on. And so it's something that I just want you to think about. What are you afraid of? What causes that reaction in you? Is it a specific person in your life? There could be a family member that's really volatile and you have to walk on eggshells and it keeps you in that state of stress and fear all the time. Is it a boss? Is it a coworker? Is it, we all have fears. Like sometimes we have a fear of losing a loved one or going broke. And, I know after car accidents I've had in the past, I'm really nervous while I'm driving because I'm hypersensitive to that. Like, oh my God, I don't want to have another accident. So what we tend to do is push it away. Like, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to deal with it. And the thing is, it's okay to look at it and just think about, okay, why am I scared of this? I know I am scared of earthquakes, uncontrollable and unpredictable, and there's no way to deal with it except for in the moment when it hits and you don't know when it's going to hit. It's usually early in the morning when you're half asleep and you can't think anyway. So, but what is your fear? Is it something that you can kind of calm yourself down about and talk to yourself rationally about, and maybe even use a tool like tapping to diminish the emotional charge of whatever is that's causing that fear? A lot of us who are in the self-help world, study the law of attraction, have watched The Secret, we're afraid, we have fear of looking at our fears because we've been taught you can't focus on anything negative, because what you focus on expands, and if you focus on it, you're going to get more of it. And yes, that is true, but in this instance, you have to look at something in order to clear it out. And Louise Hay actually says, before you clean your house, you have to look at where the dirt is, so you know what to clean out. So look at fear as something that you can use as a tool to learn. Like, okay, what can I learn? And when you overcome a fear, you're so much more powerful, and you're going to feel so much stronger when you know that, okay, I overcame this. And maybe you don't totally overcome it, but you learn how to handle it and handle it better in the future. That's what I'm hoping to do with earthquakes is, the next time it happens, maybe I won't totally go into that panic stage. Maybe I will just be more calm and go, okay, let's write it out. And maybe I won't need Bailey's again. So it's interesting. It's kind of I don't want you to be afraid to look at your fear, because when you push it away, it's just going to get worse. If you push it off to the side, you're actually going to attract more stuff, because by trying to ignore it, there's a part of your brain that's actually focused on it, which is going to attract more of it to you, and it's going to keep coming and coming and coming until you learn how to deal with it and learn how to dissipate that energy so that there is not the emotional charge anymore, and then it will stop coming. So think about that, and I hope it makes sense to you, because it is really powerful. There's a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, and I love it. And I don't even think she needed to write the whole book. The title kind of says it all. Just like, feel the fear and do it anyway. If there's something that scares you, take a step towards it. Do something that helps you face that fear and conquer it and become bigger than it, because you're bigger than anything. And I know that you've probably heard that there are really only two emotions in life behind everything: love or fear. And if you think about that, it's really true, because all other emotions are behind one of these two emotions, and all the negative emotions, they're usually behind fear. So when you can learn to deal with that in a positive way, which means that you're dealing with it with love, loving yourself, loving the situation, loving the person, not condoning it or accepting it. You don't have to accept anything, but you can look at it and go, okay, I get it. I see you. I acknowledge you. And I understand how you make me feel. And I'm going to choose to dissipate that emotion and not let it bother me as much. But then, I also want to point out, you can't just, again, ignore something and go, I'm not going to let it bother me, because it just is. So if something bothers you, I want you to learn how to dissipate the emotional charge of it bothering you. And tapping is a great tool for that. So I'll go into much more detail next week. We'll go through a whole tapping round. I'll teach you how to do it. If you're not familiar with it, I'll give you some resources, because it's incredible, and I've been using it for years, and it's really powerful, and it can really help with something like this. So really, that's all I wanted to talk to you about today, is just looking at your fears and dealing with them and being okay with the fact that you have fears, and knowing that you can conquer anything that comes up for you, because I want you to feel powerful, and I want you to feel good, because it's all about feeling good, right? And once again, I hope this video made you feel good today. If you were like me and a little tense and stressed out and disturbed by the earthquake, I hope this kind of helps you know that you're not alone. There are other people like, I don't care, it doesn't bother me, but okay, it bothers me. So if it bothers you, I'm with you. So if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube, forward to your family and friends. And if you would like the Feel Good Friday video delivered straight to your inbox every week, go over to my website, tannamarshall.com, and sign up for my mailing list. And with that, I just want to wish you a great weekend, and know that you have the power to conquer any fear that comes up this week. And hopefully your weekend is only full of good stuff and fun and happiness and love and joy and laughter. And next week we'll get into more tapping. So have a great week, and I'll talk to you then.